What's up, guys? We are back with another Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts review, taking a look at another SDCC event exclusive release. We've got our big boy here this time. We're taking a look at MAJIN BUU. So this guy, of course, came out, I don't know, a long time ago at this point, and he's getting a reissue with a few small changes for the event exclusives this year. Now, of course, as a result of that, he does get a snazzy new box. It's still that same massive, big, fat box that he's always come in, but it's done up in the black and, in his case, pink motif. So you got the figure there in the window. You got some really good artwork of Buu on the front in that pink and black relief. Product shots on the side, and then on the back of the box, in typical Figuarts fashion, you've got a bunch of product shots showing how he moves and some of the stuff this guy comes with. So let's do it. Let's pull him out and take a look.
And here we go, out of the package, our event exclusive SH Figuarts MAJIN BUU, the good fat Buu, and this has to be the most unchanged of the event exclusives this year for sure. We've got 16 with his super sweet matte paint job and the changed faces, the changed hair. Shenron is ultra metallic. This guy just has like some finish changes. I mean, the yellow is a little bit brighter in some instances. The black is a little bit shinier. But he's very, very close to the original. So this is definitely going to be one of those ones where if you don't have him, this is a good chance to basically get him. And if you already do have him, you probably don't need this one. This isn't necessary for everyone unless you don't have him or you're a completionist. So let's see what he can do. See how he moves around. He's an older figure, but he's so weird that he doesn't really fall in the category of like old Figuarts. He's very much his own thing, and for better and for worse, because he moves really weirdly because, well, look at him. So we got a head that can look up. He can look down. You've got your tilt side to side, full rotation. Arms out at the shoulders. They, of course, will rotate. You do have butterfly joints, so he can go really far across that big, broad chest. You've got a bicep swivel. We've got double jointed elbows. Pretty good range, and then we've got ball pegs at the wrist, but they're so wide that they have great range of motion. There's nothing getting in the way, so that's really good. He does have the articulated, plastic cape thing going on. So they're 3 segmented pieces, and they will go out like this. You got to watch them. You'll hear that clicking sound if you do them wrong, like I just did. And then they can shimmy as well a little bit to kind of flare them out. It doesn't look great from the back, obviously, but it looks okay from the front. I'm still not the biggest fan of these. I've never gone the route of replacing one of these with soft goods because they do look really good from the front. Like, that looks fine to me. But when you get it from behind, it's a series of plates. You have to either be fine with it or not fine with it, I suppose. It does look okay, though. And it does connect really solidly. It actually clicks and will peg in on him. As far as the torso goes, this is where he's really limited. Surprisingly, it's the torso and not the legs. So he really just sort of shimmies and bobbles a little bit. He doesn't really do a whole lot. And honestly, I'd be worried about, doing too much because you could scratch him. So he can do like one of these numbers. And that's pretty much it. He doesn't really do a whole lot more. Legs, however, are just insane on this guy, and I've always been impressed by what they're able to do here. It does look funny. It does look really weird, but it is super functional. So they go all the way out, and they go all the way forward, and they go backwards a little bit. You do have a thigh twist up there. We've got single jointed knees that are full 90, so they go all the way back. And then you've got ball pegs at the feet, so backwards, forward, little tilt side to side, and then rotation down there. And then you've also got your ever-present toe hinge. So he does move pretty well. Like, he's not under-articulated by any means. He's just differently articulated. He is and has always been and still is and remains and will probably forever be his own thing when it comes to this line because of just his oddball shape. He's weird, but they did manage to pack in a solid amount of articulation. The only place where he's really kind of lacking is that torso, and it does impede his dynamic posing ability. But the legs do, in many ways, at least for me, they do make up for it a little bit. Now, as far as the aesthetics and the visuals, the overall look and feel of this big fat boy, I really think it's easiest just to pull in the original. So we've got our new one on the left, and we've got our original on the right. And this guy is kind of flipped from what they did to Android 16. So 16 was glossy, and then they made him matte. They made the new one glossy in a few ways, compared to what was matte in certain areas on the original, but they're overwhelmingly very, very, very similar. I will say that the skin tone color on the new one does seem to be slightly less pink. I don't know if it's going to come through really well because honestly it's very, very subtle, and then there's slight differences in shading here and there. That may be just, a paint variance kind of thing, but there is a little bit of a difference in shading on the cape on our old one. But this guy is very, very similar. It's a very, very close exclusive version. So, things like the gloves are gloss, the vest is glossy, and the boots are glossy. The cape does seem to be a slightly lighter shade of that light purple with a little bit less shading, and then the skin tone is a little bit lighter. It's not as pink as the old one, but they are super, super close. And, again, like I said, if you've already got this one, unless you just need a second Buu for a different part of your display, you maybe don't necessarily need this new one. So I do think they made him pretty close to the point where it doesn't feel necessary to buy him again. And maybe that's kind of what they're going for with some of these this year, because they do seem to be very much in that vein. But he still looks fantastic, and he's a big, big honkin' figure. We'll of course do a few size comparisons, but he's a big boy. He has a commanding shelf presence. He's a goofy looking figure, but that's what he is. And I think they've always done a pretty good job of representing him in figure form with this design. It does hinder his articulation in some ways because he's a big blob for the torso, but he looks great. And of course you've got these big carved out thighs, but functionality is what functionality is, and I think it's a good trade-off. They managed to make that still look okay with the big baggy diaper pants thing to allow him to move around. So I'm pretty happy with the way he turned out. I like the small changes that are present here. They're small, but they're impactful, especially when you've got the old one next to him, so you get an idea of exactly what is different and realize, okay, it's minor things that make him noticeably different, but not so much so that it's necessarily maybe a must-have. I know I'm kind of harping on that, but I feel like it's pretty important with some of these sometimes that you don't necessarily have to have them, and it kind of goes along with what should be an event exclusive. Like, this looks very, very much like the original. It's just a few minor finish changes and slight color changes, which may or honestly may not even be intentional. It's really hard to pick up on some of them because they are so small. But otherwise, it is essentially the same figure, just with some small changes, and I am just as happy with him now as I was however many years ago this guy came out. And then as far as some size comparisons go, here he is with stuff that makes sense, I suppose, in terms of Dragon Ball. So we've got our Evil Buu here on the left. We've got our Mr. Satan Hercule here on the right. So you've got a really tall, lanky kind of figure, and then a more normal-ish. He's more in line with the normal figures when it comes to Mr. Satan. So you get an idea of just how big Buu is. I mean, he's both tall and incredibly fat, which of course, makes sense. And then let's move him aside and we'll do something else. So here is a Super 7 Ultimate, so a 7-inch scale figure. There's Sleepy Lion-O. And let's move Buu aside. And here's something incredibly different scale altogether. Here is our NECA Turtles Donatello. So just a quick comparison between a couple other brands to get an idea of what he looks like with something smaller, something that doesn't really scale at all in that Donatello, and then something that is a larger scale in general, but you can see how much bigger Buu is by comparison to anything that falls within even a 7-inch scale range. Now, as far as accessories goes, this is where Buu has always kind of fell a little flat for me, because he doesn't really come with a lot of stuff, and he still doesn't. Because again, this is literally the same figure that we got previously with some minor changes, and those changes that go with the deco kind of flow into this figure. So the hands are a brighter yellow. We do get some extra heads. We get, of course, this sort of basic smiling head on him in the box. We get the open mouth, tongue stuck out head, which I really love. This is one of my favorites. And then we also get this sort of like diabolical, very evil, grinning, kind of scowling with the kind of, devious smile look going on here with this head sculpt. And then we get some extra hands, so you get a set. You get 2 extra sets, so he comes with 6 total hands. He's got fists on him in the box. You get a set of just, like finger guns, basically. And then you get a set of very specific gripping hands. And of course, like I said, these are the same, like really high gloss yellow that match the rest of his look. And then the last thing he comes with is the chocolate bar, which I love this. This is a classic Buu kind of thing. So I'm glad that they did include this. in many ways it kind of takes the spot of an energy effect for him. But this is a really cool accessory. I do really like it. You know, for years, literally years, the original one stood in one of my displays just holding a candy bar. So I'm a big fan of this one. However, I do kind of wish that they would have been able to include the extra head and effect that came with Evil Buu, because there's an additional part for him that comes. You only get an Evil Buu which has an energy effect. But I understand with the confines of this being an event exclusive where it's just a repaint, it would have changed the entire box setup and how the inner tray works and everything. So I understand why it probably couldn't have been included. But I do kind of wish it could have been otherwise, because he is pretty light on accessories compared to most figures, and that would have definitely beefed him up at least a little. So yeah, overall, I've always been pretty happy with Buu. I thought there were a few things, that definitely made him kind of weird in comparison to every other figure in this line. He is an odd shape, even compared to some of the more weird figures we've gotten over the years. He is still very much a unique thing. He definitely moves oddly as a result, but he's still pretty fun to play around with, and he looks fantastic. And of course, this is definitely what you want to see in an event exclusive, because if you've got the first one, you do not need this one. You definitely don't. He is slightly different in the most basic of ways to make him basically just a way to get him if you missed him. If you are a completionist, there you go, you can get him. But if you missed him, this is your chance to get him at a really good price. And then, of course, he comes with some goofy accessories. I do kind of wish he came with that extra head and effect that we saw down the road, but I, again, understand why he doesn't. So, still a pretty solid, pretty fun figure. So, that's going to do it for this look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Buu. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.